Oh well, good evening, good evening. I can't believe it's so long since I put the first one of these out. I know when I said in that first one I'd do these regularly, I had a little more often than once a fortnight in mind. But yeah, work's pretty mad. Headspace is suitably narrowed. And so I looked up and thought I'd better do another one of these. So I wondered what I thought I could just cover off what I've been doing musically in the last couple of weeks since I did the first video diary. But because of the aforementioned work, it's been pretty thin on the ground. So, but there is one thing. So I thought what I'd do for this little clip is just jump into one of the little work in progresses that did drop out of the last couple of weeks. It's just a really early idea, but it does showcase or does use some plugins that I'm just really enjoying using at the moment. I think like most electronic artists like me, I tend to, I try not to, but I tend to gather plugins. And there's so many deals on so often that you always end up grabbing some and they sit on the shelf for a while and then you sort of rediscover them. There's a couple of those plugins from these guys I'm just about to describe, but there's a couple in here that I've just keep coming back to, but only because they're just such fun to noodle with. And I've not really written a great deal of stuff with them in terms of tunes, but I've used them a lot. Just because, again, it's good to come up here sometimes after a long day at work where you're just brain tired and just, fiddle. It's a nice way of unwinding. You just make noise at the end of the day. So I thought this one, just to set a bit of a precedent as well. You want one to get it done because it's been a couple of weeks, but two, so that I'd jump into Ableton and have a bit of a talk around stuff, so that I didn't get into the habit of these just being me waffling on, because those who know me know I need no excuse to talk, and I can talk for England, given half the chance, and some of it, a tiny percentage, ends up being interesting. So you see, I mean, it's nearly 3 minutes in now, and I've not said a great deal. So I did say that these were going to be a smattering of lots of things. Bit video diary, bit this is how I use Ableton, bit this is progress and synths that are behind me and all that sort of gear. So let me put Ableton up on the screen, look, and then I can talk to it rather than just waffling on and be lots more words. The other thing that I promised myself as well was I wasn't going to let perfect be the enemy of good. So, these aren't going to be flashy, well strung together, beautifully edited. They're just going to be 15 minutes of fairly raw. Here we go. Here's some stuff. Hope you find it interesting. See you on the next one. So that's where we are. So I know there's loads of ums and gaps and stuff, but I think that's kind of how I want them to be, because that's kind of how I am. So the plugins that I've really enjoyed using come from this company called Crow Hill. So let's just pop me down here, look, because then you can see me while I'm talking a little bit. I'll remove this when I get into Ableton proper. Now, the thing about Crow Hill is their plugins are very much sample based, but they come at them from such a refreshing angle. So when they do a strings library plugin, it's not lots of faithful recreations of strings. They make them their own. They affect them and adapt them and present them in such a way that there's just something really musical and usable around what they do. And they've done that with quite a number of things. And what they're very good at doing as well is they'll have their sort of, in a way, and they also do a lot of blogs and tutorials and all that sort of stuff. And from those talks, the main guy, Christian, who's the driving force behind it, but there's some real talent in the team behind him. Go visit the website, Crow Hill Company. They're fantastic. So he often talks around scoring, and that's obviously where they've come from, and that's sort of where the thrust of a lot of their plugins are aimed at for scoring films, drama, theatre, etc., etc. But they're just so usable in any context, as I hope you're about to hear. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and again, the whole ethos as well, the whole way they're presented, the whole vibe around them is just really, really good. So I guess they come at plugins from three angles. There's the sort of top flight ones, which are, you know, they're on the expensive side, but they're not like the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds like the big sample libraries. And then they tend to do a little bit of a cut down version of a similar thing for, you know, 30, 40, 50 pounds. And if you get them when they're released, they're really cost effective, really value for money, you know, 20 or 30 quid. So there's the you know, the main ones, the cut down ones, and then they've got this thing called vaults, which is, I'll show you it in a moment, but it's an instrument, single instrument with really just lots of presets in, but those presets are so usable, and they're free. So they're free for a while. So you just make sure you hit the website at the right time, get the preset in the Vaults instrument, you can use it as much as you like, and even if you miss it, it's pennies, it's 2 or 3 quid to add it a bit later before they disappear forever. And I've got a couple of the cut down sort of things that they've done, and a couple of the quite focused things that are very sort of niche and of themselves, which are fairly self-contained, and some of the Vaults stuff as well. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, where all this started off was with an instrument from this little plugin. It's called Filth Guitar Hive, and they do have a bigger. Their full version is sort of Guitar Hive itself, and this Filth is their cut down version. So, and I think this shows the way they approach things. So if I just play a couple of notes on the keyboard to the right, you'll sort of see where this is coming from. And it helps if I've got the right tracks armed, which I haven't there. In fact, I'm going to turn that off. No, it was right. So you can hear that this isn't just a guitar sample. For one, there's tons of lovely effects on there, but you've got that lovely repeating lick. So, and that's really the way these work. There's just, and then once you start noodling with all the little settings as well, they go to some lovely places. I'm not going to tweak these settings, else I'll spoil what I've got there. This is actually something I was getting to the habit of, and I don't. So I'll load a plugin in, and then I'll fiddle with everything and tweak it, and I really should save it out as a preset, so that if I do lose it, I can just recall it back. I never do. I just trust on Ableton to save it in the track, and it's tripped me up a couple of times. So maybe I'll do a little video on that and teach myself how to do this properly. So that's the sort of thing. If I what I can do actually is if I just very quickly chuck that plug in on another track over here. There we go. So I've got a fresh plugin now, so I can give you some of the other presets. So this is the raw one, first preset. So if I then just flip through to the next one, I mean, you can hear how it could be used in scoring, but for the sort of music I do, and I know a lot of my contemporaries do as well, there's places for this in that. So you get the idea. There's just something that little bit extra to them, and that was a real whistle-stop tour. I must admit, when I first started using them, I thought they'd be a bit limiting because of their intonations. I thought it'd tie you down, but as I said, there's something really quite musical about them. This is another one. This is Dot Allison, who's quite a famous session singer, and has this gorgeous voice. And again, for the sort of music I like, it's a very similar approach to the Guitar Hive one. But if I just play again, just a single key, on this. You can see it's set to refrains, and you can see all the effects around the edge. So absolutely gorgeous. And there's some real subtleties around this as well. So at the moment she's singing R's. You can see along the bottom there. E's, O's. So you can change that vowel sound that she's making, and when you're playing live you can do that based on key presses. And again, there's lots of different little licks and riffs, and there's such flexibility in here. I love this plugin. Like I said, I've not really used it a lot in tunes yet, apart from what you're about to hear. But it's just it's just so much fun at the end of the day. And for someone like me who loves all that old Cocteauxy, dream pop, shoegazy stuff, I can sit and noodle with that for hours. So this started. Let's get to a tune, shall we? I'm going to let this probably run a little longer than the 15 minutes because I think it's probably worth it. So this started with just me playing with the guitar high one, and fiddling with the effects and the different presets, and stumbling across this little riff. If I open up that there, you'll be able to see what notes I'm playing. Nothing terribly complicated. Oh, look, little rogue note there. Let's get rid of that. I love that little chord change, and this is what sort of switched me on to it. So I thought there's something nice here with that initial little riff, and that was just, I mean, I can't even remember writing that deliberately. This is literally me just letting my hands move across the keyboards. So this felt like something. And then what I did was chucked Dot Allison in, as you can see, and ended up with her singing along. Again, just double notes here. So those little intonations are lovely. And again, that beautiful chord change. So this was doing things in my head at this point. I was thinking this could actually go somewhere, which is always a good sign. So I'll just put the guitar back underneath. You notice on this first bit, her voice bends down, and then on this second bit it bends up at the end. And I think that's entirely deliberate. The attention to detail to make these things work in the plugins is smashing. So then I wanted to put some strings under. Pocket strings is another, exactly the same sort of ethos to the two I've shown you. If I just quickly show you the interface for that, you'll get another idea. So, again, you've got this mix of three types of string: orchestral, big analog, and little raw vintage stuff, which you can mix. That's pretty replaceable. So I can move that and move it back, and a few simple little effectors and effects themselves, just to dial in. And that was the next thing that I dropped in. You'll hear that in a moment, because what I want to do, before I sort of play the whole tune as a little ending, is just show you. I mentioned the Volts preset. So this is the Volts preset, the Volts plugin, sorry. And you can see the presets there are just a few pianos, some strings, a couple of guitars, some drummy bits and some synths. And I'm using the chorus synth is a really usable sort of Jupiter Juno-esque sort of synth. But that's the thing about these. I'm just going to solo this bass out just so you can hear it, because they're just, I keep saying the phrase, but they're just so usable. Listen to this bass line. It's lovely. I mean, before this, I used to faff so much with different bass sounds, just trying to get a really good bass guitar sound. And again, there's other plugins and things out there that you could pay for and get. This is free. This costs nothing. And listen to that bass. It's cracking, isn't it? And the other thing that shows as well, it's so musically usable that, again, that bass line just fell out as I was improvising over to the stuff. When things fit, it takes away, another thing for your brain to have to consider when you're writing stuff. So again, the other thing I've got in here is a little stacked instrument with two. These are the two of the chorus synths. Using a little trick that I use quite a lot is two synths, exactly the same preset, one just pitched an octave above the other. And it just brightens the sound, gives it a bit of depth. Oops, don't want to turn the instrument off. And just makes it work. So look, I've done what I said I'd do, shown you some of the plugins that I'm really enjoying using at the moment, bit of background about how this track started, very, very high level, I know. But I'll just round off. I haven't figured out the structure yet, and all I've got really is that 8-bar loop that came from, 16-bar loop that came from that original noodling with the guitar. So it doesn't go much beyond this, but this is really how all my stuff starts off. And this one came quicker than most for the reasons that I've said. So again, I've got a rough structure. It's nowhere near thought out. It just sort of kind of works. So I'll stop waffling. I will turn myself off and give you a play of. I've called the tune Only Be. No idea why. They were the first two words that popped into my head when I hit save. So the name will probably change, but I'm really looking forward to developing this one. So anyway, I'll give you a play of the whole thing, as it were, and you can let me know what you think in the comments. And it messes up straight away. Look, let's just stop that. Thank you. Let's just start with the guitar. So there you go. There you go. That's only B. And you can see, if I just can hop back to the screen, this is what I'll do now, is I'll just build up more little ideas. You know, you see, you heard 3 little sort of synth licks there. I'll just carry on doing that for a while, then figure out I'll need a key change and you know, some structure, a middle 8, chorusy bits, and just build it out from there. Yeah, there you go. There's a little insight into a work in progress that I've done in the last couple of weeks, pretty much from inception to where I am now, to it ready to go. I'm doing a lot. I'll stop there because I've broken the 20-minute barrier, but still, you know, I wanted to keep these. I think that still counts as fairly short. What it is demonstrating to me, well, you know, I have this idea, we'll just do 10 or 15 minutes of how tricky it is to do something fairly focused in that time. This has been fairly whistle stop, and here we are at 20 minutes. So I think what I'll probably do is end up doing the quick 10 or 15 minute updates with tunes, but then every now and again I'll probably do a bit of a deeper dive, and we'll just see how that works. But again, I'm just happy to waffle on like this and show you bits and bobs of what I do. So let me know what you'd like to have me show you and have me talk about and all that sort of stuff, given, you know, the context of this little hobbyist musician sitting in his spare room with some bits of kit around him. I'm enjoying doing them. I hope you're enjoying listening to them. Let me know. Do the old like and subscribe dance, because, you know, seeing those numbers creep from 2 to 3 to 4 does my ego loads of good. And share this stuff on social media if you think some other people would like to partake. So thank you once again for watching. Quick thank you, that, because I didn't say it at the beginning, of all the people who got in touch after the first one. All the feedback was positive, and some people direct messaged me with some ideas of what to do for future ones. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. You know who you are. And there you go. Let's see how long it takes me to do another one of these. Hopefully not another 2 weeks, but hopefully work will settle down a bit and I'll have a bit more headspace. So I will see you soon. Take care.